Self-driving cars, is it the apocalypse of automotive enthusiasm? Matt Farah's here, Dan Neal's here by Skype. We're coming back with that on Road Testament. So self-driving cars, Matt Farah's here. As I said, Grammy Award-winning R&B sensation Dan Neal is also here. You guys were on a car show. I can't remember. What was it called?
Very creatively named.
Yes.
Yeah. The average.
That's grading on the curve, for sure.
Yes.
So self-driving cars, I know Dan is really deep in the technology. You guys have both done, been at least seen them race.
I have been in the driver's seat of a car that I was not driving.
Right.
And as is Dan, the same BMW track trainer.
Right. And
good second.
And NASCAR did a famous what was it?
The April Fool's post.
Right. The April Fool's post last year that the whole.
Well, the problem with the self-driving NASCAR race is there probably wouldn't be any crashes and they would lose all their audience. which.
So outside of motorsports, right? We've been seeing Google do a lot of things in the last. Really, what is it, 2 years, Dan?
The Google car show. About 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years, and they have almost $4 million worth of cars that drive themselves. The employees now drive themselves to work, sitting in a car that drives itself. They've made huge progress, and it almost feels like this could be a real thing now. I mean, it's like one of those futuristic things we've been seeing for.
Well, dude, as we've proven in many other ways, Demolition Man is an accurate picture of the future. The Schwarzenegger library, the self-driving cars, Taco Bell taking over. I mean, it's all happening.
It's essentially a documentary.
Exactly.
It's a documentary of things that haven't happened to that. When do we get to then? Soon, sir. One Spaceballs reference per show.
Exactly. So all right. So let's look at what's on the table right now. So it's sensors and software that that can detect the road, that can
detect pedestrians.
Everything. Right. Keep people safe enough to drive. Dan, is that accurate enough for your technology head?
Not really, but we can carry on.
Say the same thing, but with words twice the size, Dan. That's usually how you do
it. Look, the interesting thing is, first, this technology's been underway quietly for decades. Because dating back to Norman Bel Geddes in the 1939 World's Fair and automated cars, the promise of this technology is huge. It essentially digitally doubles the size of the American infrastructure, more carrying capacity. It makes cars vastly safer because they are not relying on the faulty wetware behind the wheel. This technology is very, very robust at the moment. I think one of the things that people overlook is how evolved it is. They could roll this stuff out tomorrow, but for the testing and validation phase that prudent government would require. But the big differences are flight hardware, right? That is computers that can sit in cars in 20 and 30 below zero and 120 above zero for years on end and never have a fault. And then the processing power on board and the processing power between cars. The other thing that was huge is when the FCC authorized the use of a whole part of the spectrum that it's a millimeter wave spectrum that gave cars and the infrastructure the ability to talk to one another, and that has been the big change. So I think people will be surprised how mature this really is.
Well, Dan, two things. Sorry, Mike.
No.
One thing is the question that I was talking about with Zach at Back in My Place was, what lane does an automated car drive in? Does an automated car go in the lane with the farthest gap? Even if it's the left lane, and it would be silly to assume that anyone would program these cars to speed under any circumstance. You know what I mean? No one is going to... You disagree?
I don't know. I think that there will be a wick. And you will be able to turn it up because, as a practical matter, people are often at have different paces. If they're late for an appointment, they'll want to go fast. Now, can you program the car to exceed the law? That's probably something that has to be adjudicated in committee.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, if the speed limit's 55, but let's call it any highway in California, 75 is the speed limit. Is not the limit. Is the speed that people move. But could you program a car to go that fast? And if not, is the car on its own going to pick the left lane and sit at 55?
Well, pulling it back a second, what are the benefits of having cars, either all the cars on the road or a significant portion of them, or even just a few of them?
DUIs would be virtually eliminated, at least for anyone who can afford one of these
That's
cars.
a rather self-centered viewpoint.
Save
Is that
money
the
on
first thing you
cabs.
think of as a DUI? As a parent, I think about kids coming home from the prom, though, and no kid ever needs to die wrapped around a pine tree if this technology is fully in force. There are many other. I mean, like I said, there's carrying capacity, there's safety. If cars are electronically crash-proofed, then you can make them lighter because you no longer have to surround the occupants in a heavy steel cage. And so it is it's a predicate, I should say, an antecedent to a wholesale re-engineering of the automobile. So that's another thing in fit for fuel savings.
Dan, you were saying carrying capacity. What are you talking about exactly?
Well, there's a thing called platooning, when automobiles are talking to each other, V2V, that's vehicle-to-vehicle communications, they can maintain safer following distances. And in fact, they can be within just a couple of yards of one another because you don't have to accommodate the human reaction time. And that the car cannot but slow down as the car ahead of it slows down. Now, we have a rudimentary form of that in the radar, distance-keeping radar. And that's another interesting thing. Many of the technologies that we have in modern cars set the stage. You know, lane
departure,
lane
blind
detection,
spot, and radar
lane departure. In Japan, they have lane correction. So you let go of the wheel, and the car will go down between the lanes, and that is a big part of a driver's workload generally.
So like easing traffic volume tie-ups, right? So that's huge right there.
Integrating it, timing it. Look, in a system like Los Angeles, getting people to merge cooperatively, that is a huge fault in the current system.
Instead of speeding up to the end of where the lane ends
the greed
and cutting
factor
in.
is eliminated there.
People drive like idiots. Computers hopefully will not be programmed like idiots.
Computers could be programmed to cooperate with each other, and rather than boxing someone out for a lane.
Right, but what you asked earlier is a very interesting point, because as this technology emerges, who gives way, the autopilot car or the manually operated car? You're talking about a social and a social change, the social society of drivers, and that I think that these cars, autopilot cars, will have a zone of privilege, so that they will be able to go in the left lane. Or the HOV lane, and they will be able to park free and all sorts of other advantages to encourage the technology.
Well, that's interesting. California already has carpool lanes. We have some carpool lanes in New York.
You can drive electric cars in them and stuff.
Right. So, I mean, maybe you piggyback a little bit there.
Right, but if it's not programmed to speed, believe me, as someone who uses that carpool lane, there is nothing worse than a car going 55 in the carpool lane.
Right.
Because you can't get out.
Right.
In California.
Well, I have to tell you, there's a classist issue here, because this is going to be expensive technology. Will the upper classes with their robot chauffeurs have to give way to the common man, or vice versa? I think this is going to be not a technical issue, but a social issue.
Well, it's interesting because of all the social issues, there are a lot of legal issues also. You've got an insurance issue too. I mean, is it something where insurance companies will say that this is such a positive, robust technology that it will actually give you breaks on insurance that'll offset the cost of the car?
insurance industry has backed this to the hilt in Europe and in the United States. And China, the central
But
government
I have a feeling,
wants
though, in America, because of the sue-happy nature of this country, that if assuming this comes to market in the next 20 years, that you're going to have to sign a waiver saying, whatever this car does, I am responsible for.
Right.
So if it's a speeding ticket, a parking ticket, you know, does the car know?
If the car gets drunk, for example, and gets a DUI.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting too, because I heard this, and correct me if I'm wrong, that automakers are concerned about the liability that they might have by having a car that drives itself. Are they on the hook, or is it going to be? You know, it sounds more like it's going to be something where, as the operator,
you must have to sign some kind of waiver. And I would love to have it if there was an automated car that you could drive yourself, or you could, you know, and it had a breathalyzer in it.
Right.
You sit in it, you are wasted. I'm driving, and then you're clear. Then you're good.
And if it could, it needs to have some jokes in there too, like some jokes,
like Siri.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Like, Siri, am I okay to drive?
Siri, I have a dead prostitute in my trunk. The nearest garbage dump is 4.3 miles away.
I will drive you there. Exactly.
Wow, that's kind of dark.
Yeah, the show just took a turn.
It happens.
So it sounds like the legislation allowing this, that I think California just passed, and I think Nevada's already there. Has that come?
Nothing to hit Nevada.
Well, right. Nothing to hit. But is that because the insurance companies are backing it? Is that like a, you know, kind of lobbyist sort of way in?
I don't know that automation is necessarily has the force of big money lobbying behind it, but I think that policymakers, in public and private policymakers, recognize that there's it's a huge windfall, and as I say, they would be right to privilege it in various ways. It is a very powerful technology, and I think that often this conversation comes up about, well, what will be lost if we let cars drive themselves? Don't Americans, aren't they particularly entitled automotively? And I honestly tell you, I don't see anyone objecting to this, even hardcore car guys. It's not a loss. And besides, people are sick of driving anyway. It's lousy out there.
But it's not like there won't be an option to drive the thing yourself. It's not like they're eliminating the steering wheel, eliminating the pedals.
Right.
And it's not like, you know, Ferrari is going to make a self-driving 458. We're talking about, for all intents and purposes, luxury cars and boring commuter cars.
Right. And interestingly, like, I thought that we were all going to be against this, right? It's going to eliminate, you know, the fun of driving and all that stuff. But I actually think, and maybe it comes from living in a city, that this is a great thing, and then you make
it's
driving
the fun driving.
It's the fun driving. You can save driving for just the times when it's fun. It becomes like a power sport.
It's going to be like gasoline in 50 years. You know what I mean? Gasoline is going to be so expensive that it's going to be for recreational use.
Right.
You know, and not for getting around.
Like crack.
Like crack.
May I just jump in here? Matt said something very interesting.
That was twice today.
Oh, he's on a roll. A totally roll. The deal is this, you know, Matt says it's not like they're going to make you not drive, and that I question. Because, first of all, they're going to incentivize automated driving in all sorts of ways. So it's going to really be more and more expensive, costly in time and money to drive yourself. Also, because of this peculiar relationship between autopilot and manually operated cars, it seems like there could be a fair amount of friction. And I think that there will be penalties attached to manually operating your car, especially in dense urban environments. I think that there would be strong incentives to get manually operated cars off the road.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of the law of unintended consequences for this. I mean, it's once if there are cost savings, and once the machine, the sort of legislative machine, starts getting behind this, and the insurance machine.
I don't know about. I mean, I think it's going to be tough to get people who like old cars to give up their old cars, and it's going to be someone somewhere is going to say it's unconstitutional to demand someone drive this type of car. Right now, as long as a car
Driving is
passes,
so clearly a privilege, though it's not a right.
yeah. Oh, well, okay, all right.
But technically, though, you're right, and that's but not technically. Sort of socially, I could see a total, automotive
huge
tea party,
backlash.
an automotive tea party movement.
Yeah.
Of like people driving Falcons to like you'll probably this I'll give up this Ford Falcon with my cold dead hands, right? Exactly.
From Australian Falcons.
I don't know why I picked Falcons of all cars.
It's a good one. I like it. It's free association. It's cool.
For Dan, it should be. Yeah, Dan might. If this happens, Dan might never be able to buy his dream Fossil Vega.
That's
The
right.
Fossil Vega.
Matt, did I tell you at Pebble Beach I saw my 3 dream cars all within 45 minutes, all sitting on the same field.
Sidetrack from automated cars.
No,
Dan
go
has the
ahead.
most interesting list of dream cars. Dan, share your dream car list.
Well, there's the DS21, Citroen DS21, Fossil Vega HK 500, and I'm thinking a 77, 78 Aston Martin V8.
Oh, well, I'm with you on that. I'm
His
totally with you
3
on
dream
that.
cars all drive terribly.
Possible driver. They're lousy. They're not even cars. But I just want to. I'm sorry to return.
No, it's
to point.
okay. If you now, okay. So that's. Would there be? I mean, technology moving the way it does, I could possibly see an add-on, drive it yourself technology
Like
market,
an
an aftermarket.
self-driving.
So you could have
man.
that 78 Vantage with
Oh my God.
with like servos on the.
All you had to
steering
say
wheel.
is British car with aftermarket electronics. I just got. Yep.
That's just what that Aston Martin means. That's exactly right. I think it will be. I think manual operated cars will be de-incentivized. I think that look, 30% of high school driving age kids did not get a driver's license last year. 30%. That's up from 12% in 1983. Forever and always, getting a driver's license as a teenager is a ritual of growing up in America, being an American. That is no longer operative. The other thing is that people are getting out of the vintage car hobby like they're under gunfire. People are selling those things. They're getting rid of them because if you have a perfectly restored vintage car, you can't drive it on a modern road unless you get a resto mod, which is a whole other set of issues. And now you've raised the bar of the enthusiast bar to, where you're working on your own car, you're building your own resto mod so you can just go out and drive it at Cars and Coffee. I think that the romance is over for Americans and the automobile. Over.
So that makes me sad. I know how Dan thinks. I know that Dan is a very progressive thinker when it comes to this kind of stuff.
I'm just looking at the statistics.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. If you
Which
look
I
at
ignore.
the current. that which
I just completely ignore.
It's easier that way, for sure.
I know.
It's hard to not look at the statistics and say that something is definitely happening. It doesn't leave room for a possible social resurgence.
Well, I didn't have Skype when I was 16. I had to
Right.
leave my house to have sex. that was really.
That's absolutely right. And as far away from the house as possible,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
But the other thing is, though,
I can hear Matt's mom, by the way, saying, "Don't bring that coos back here. Do not bring that coos
My mom
back
is very
to our house."
coos friendly, actually. But I had to go pick them up.
Good for her.
In my red
It's
Mustang.
public restroom, that sort of thing.
So, all right. So, what about it coming back as kind of? All right. Let's say this happens. The kids are more into the gadgets, and they sort of adopt the idea of not driving in a way that
They already have.
But what about the kids that are into vinyl? What about the niche area of automotive enthusiasm?
I think that there will be some accommodation, but I think that it's going to be limited. And also, gentlemen, you, me, the three of us, we are rapidly becoming model train enthusiasts, right?
That's really
the
scary
automotive
and sad.
enthusiast community is growing increasingly narrow, cliquish, eccentric, and hermetic, right?
What are you trying to say?
Get off my lawn, right? And it's true. I don't think most kids, I say most, that's reckless. I think many kids probably cannot even relate to what we regard as fun in automobiles. I think the door is closed in many ways.
So does that mean eventually we'll be downstairs with our little hats and like the rheostats,
with our helmets on our driving
helmets
suits.
and driving suits with a rheostat?
You laugh. I'm telling you, man. It's the truth. It is. We are eccentric and weird and isolated.
But at the same time,
like
I do like the idea of drive. Maybe what about this, Dan? What if there were certain roads, call them Metro Los Angeles, where it was an automated driving zone,
right?
And in this heavily congested zone, either your car automatically did it, or you were required to switch to auto drive. Whereas up on Mulholland, up in the canyons, out in the desert, out in the middle of nowhere, it was legally. You could have the option of driving yourself because these are clearly enthusiast-oriented roads versus...
Yeah. You're on fire today. That's the third very
wise smart
very
thing.
Wise.
I mean, if it's all GPS-based anyway, right, then it should be...
Yeah. I mean, but let's just be clear. I mean, what's the adoption timeline look like for something like this? I mean, we're not talking about next year or 5 years even, right? Or are we?
Well, I think the technology is fairly front-loaded. I think it's a regulatory issue, and as I said, I think the consumer acceptance threshold is quite low. As I've said in a story recently, give people a button that says home, and they will push it. But Matt is right. In terms of the incremental rollout of this technology, it's feasible, I think probably advisable, that there would be zones of automation. And again, you would be credited or incentivized somehow to turn over control in dense urban environments. There, obviously, there is one other thing that I realized when I was doing research into this. In the 90s and the early 2000s, it was all about V to I. It was about vehicle to infrastructure. And the thought was that the cars would act cooperatively like, corpuscles in a bloodstream.
That was an excellent analogy.
Yeah, wow.
and a great word.
Would you like that?
Yeah,
okay. Let me call my editor, put that in. But what I think is interesting, and again, it's revealing on the technological side, is that manufacturers no longer talking about automobiles cooperating with the infrastructure. They've all become very self-contained. They have machine vision, they have proximity sensing, they have lane keeping, automatic braking, automatic steering. Electric steering and electric brakes helps a lot. The vision of this technology has gone from being the sort of a cooperative, collectivist, if you will pardon the word, communistic enterprise to being one very sort of individually determined and yet cooperative. It's very much more an emphasis on the individual vehicle.
Well, before we wrap it up, we talked a little bit in the beginning about racing. So, will racing eventually fall to self-driving technology?
I would hate to see that because that sort of defeats the purpose, doesn't it?
So what did you guys just go see?
The self-driving BMW. Well, the self-driving BMW is designed as a training tool. So it was at Laguna Seca, and they have a pro driver record the perfect lap, and you sit in the driver's seat, and you can either have the car drive you, and it runs the perfect lap at like 8 or 9 tenths, right? Or you drive it, but it's got these little vibrators on the back of the steering wheel, so if you drift too far off the line one way or the other, it buzzes you and lets you know to adjust either way.
That's sort of cool.
Feedback.
Dan, what were you going to say?
There's haptic feedback.
Yeah, haptic feedback.
Haptic feedback.
Well,
yeah.
I think it's kind of cool, but shouldn't the display, what do you call it? The heads-up display. Shouldn't the heads-up display
show you the line
like in Gran Turismo? Right, exactly.
To be honest,
that would work too. Yeah.
The track trainer is a relatively primitive piece of machinery. It has LED lights that sort of keep you in the corridor, but obviously and certainly technically feasible to superimpose the correct racing line like a video game on the track. And how much learned helplessness would be involved in something like that is open to question. You probably would get very reliant on the line, just like you are in a video game. Just like Tom, your insane roommate. he has the line and basically he follows it.
Yeah, regardless of what the rest of the traffic doing.
Whatever the line is made of, he's following
last
it.
bit slightly creepy
Okay.
because this started off as is it the apocalypse?
Right.
Now Google, which everyone is already kind of scared of, and has a habit for maybe abusing our personal information a little bit.
Perhaps.
Street View. If we have all these Google software vehicles running around, is it going to be? Are we going to have real-time Street View? Are we going to be able to follow your car? Are we going to be able to track you? Is this all a sort of a creepy ploy?
My God, Matt, who are you? I've never
I stopped
seen you, never
smoking pot. All of a
before.
sudden,
You're
like George
That's a
Costanza.
fantastic point.
You're like George Costanza when they had
Yes,
the contest.
all of this. I'm sorry.
Sorry,
all of this involves.
This was less important than what you were saying.
Matt, I think, has identified something very important. That's the loss of privacy. That will be a big threat. That will be a big talking point as people oppose this technology, because in order for a car to go where it wants to go, you also have to surrender quite a bit of your own personal anonymity behind the wheel.
Yeah.
It's creepy.
And it's creepy. And on that creepy note, Road Testament, thanks Matt Farah, Dan Neal.
Stay
Always a
black,
pleasure.
buddy.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for dropping by. That's Road Testament. We'll be tasting. Speaking of Tastament, you're a very good cook. I just wanted to mention that Matt Farah is a fine.
You don't get this fat by accident.
That's it.
You're looking very svelte, man.
I'm going the right direction. 20 pounds down. Thank you, not smoking pot.
There you go.